We are in Phuket, Thailand, because fuck it. Let's go to Phuket. That's what I said. So, here by the water. Boom, daddy-o. It's like 12 hours behind here from the US. So, it's morning time here. Hope all the living souls out there are doing well. Oh my goodness, the timeline is closing in on itself. Wonderland is closing in on itself. Karina, she's so smooth. She likes to bum bum. Shake that booty when she's in the mood. When she's in the mood. She got that bum bum. She got that bum bum shaking. That bum bum booty and the bum bum shaking. Got that booty up high and the bum bum shaking. Making me high on the sock. It's not wrong to observe what's temporary and what's permanent. In fact, it's very beneficial to realize that there's a difference between that which is a player, that which is a non-player character. Not because we aim to raise ourselves above anyone. You see, hierarchy is funneled through the lens of duality. So what we have to do is figure out, who are we? Who are you? Are you eternal? Okay, you're awakening. You're going through this grand awakening. Now, what about those around you? Are you concerned that all of humanity is not waking up? Because the moment we wish to wake up the collective without understanding it's only a journey of the self. Collectively, it's not a collective process first and then of the self. So by blurring the lines between what's temporary and what's permanent, we identify everyone as the same essence as we are. So the question is, why won't humanity wake up? It is hot here in Phuket, here in fuck it. Why won't humanity wake up? Like, seriously, you see what has happened in your own process, in your own life. You observe it all the time, and yet you don't see the same transformation in your friends and your family. And it's almost as if there is stagnation surrounding you as you catapult out of the limitations of your own limitations, while everyone else seemingly is still burdened by trivialities. So the question is, why won't they wake up? And the answer is because not everybody has the capacity to wake up. And this is a very hot topic right now. I didn't realize how much speaking of Martin Kenny and soulless beings would create such a conversation. And I'm really glad this conversation is happening, because it needs to be had. Now, it needs to be had because when you can disconnect from the algorithms of the masses, meaning identifying them as completely the same thing as you are, then you can detach from reactivity. It's only in duality that we criticize ourselves for maintaining a truth. So duality states, I hold something true, or I want something to be true, but the truth lies in if it's good or if it's bad, right? Most aim to do what's good, what's righteous, what is heavenly. And therefore, when analyzing our ideas and even own intuitions through this split, we can then miss the simplicity. It's like, what do you feel around you? Do you feel as if you're in a sea of eternal beings just like you? Do you really feel as if everyone here has the same eternal essence and exists outside of this construct and is just as multidimensional as you are? Do you really feel this? Or do you feel that that is the most correct way to see humanity? Because, of course, at first, I completely agree. It seems blasphemous to maintain that there's a difference between one who has a soul and one who doesn't. because again, in the dualistic split, you want to criticize an idea for being bad or lift it up for being completely good. So we use this analogy all the time, but we must. Alice in Wonderland is a complete allegory as to what we're going through. This is Wonderland. Alice fell asleep and got immersed in an inversion of her own homeland, which was peaceful, which was wonderful. As you saw in the movie, she fell onto the checkerboard of duality. And then she woke up after fleshing out all of the shadows and realizing that everybody around her was fake. Everybody around her was just a bunch of talking animals and cards and whatnot. So this is what we're going through. Now, a lot of us are feeling very strange energy within, I guess, what you'd call the spiritual community, because it's coming to light that 90%, I would say much more than 90% of the information out there, which would be considered ascensional or spiritual, it's lackluster in its transformative message. What I mean is you will find that your own transformation, it transcends most of the information that has come out about ascension, about what it means to be an individual that is, breaking free from this material construct. Now, we're not talking about having a wonderful life in the Matrix. Like, spirituality is not just about feeling good. In fact, in the last live stream, I was struggling with this word spirituality, because when we say it, it almost sounds like we're cutting it off from the rest of life. It's very common for us to hear, well, you have an economic life, you have a political life, you have a spiritual life, you have your family life, and you have a sex life. All of these different components are supposedly separate, but it's like the spiritual journey is just the great work, and the great work is why the living souls projected themselves here, and that's what we're accomplishing. So we're not here to tether ourselves and have a wonderful time in 3D. That's not to say you can't. Come on, I'm in Phuket, Thailand right now. I play music. I do what I can to interact with 3D in a way that makes sense, but I am not blind to think that this is all there is. And for those who feel the tides of change, we understand that this simulation of consciousness, it's a flimsy representation of the true home. Now, if this was, say, 100 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and spirituality would have meant to interact blissfully and harmoniously with our physical environment. But right now, we have disconnected from the physical in such a way, and that's why the awakening has been occurring on the internet. And what is this place we're on? This is not what you actually think it is. You have thought, and so have I, that this is a technology invented by man, and the internet just happened, and you have found the great content which has inspired you and enveloped you in your journey. But that's not the case. Everything is an emanation from, the Most High, from Sophia, from the Great Mother. And so the internet has trickled down into our realm because it has lifted us out of the confines of the physical. It's like we can interact here very quickly. Manifestation is pretty quick. Like if you want to create a song or a video, or you want to share an idea, you can do so, because the internet has been prepping us to break free from what we call 3D and into an existence that is, a little more free-flowing with a little bit more pizzazz. So it's interesting in this ascensional conversation when there are beings who are not recognizing that ascension means literally waking up from this realm. Many have thought during this process that that's a very fairy tale idea, like it's fantastical, but the truth is stranger than fiction. It's like, why didn't things feel right? Even from a young age, all of us had this inkling. There was more to know. Something was incorrect, but maybe if we played along with the scenarios that were handed to us, we would eventually make sense of this realm. But there's nothing to make sense here. And to identify this realm as a complete representation of what you are is to identify the soulless beings as being as eternal as anyone else. Now, we have a problem if there is no distinction between the soulless beings and the player characters. Because if everyone here has the equal essence of multidimensionality, the equal 0-point energy that the Aurora energy can flow through, then that means humanity is in deep shit. Wouldn't that mean humanity is in deep shit? That means you're awakening and you are tethered to the masses. The living souls are a collective. We are tied to each other because we are the same essence fractalized into individuated forms. But we're not a hive mind. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we are a collective, and so we come together, we leave together. Your purging process is my purging process. And to know that every ounce of reclamation you input affects me, well, that is a very comforting thought, but it's also a scary thought, because while we are going through this, it's like, okay, I see all of you on the chat. Here we are, and we are digging ourselves out of the graves we dug up with duality. And meanwhile, like, our surroundings, they're becoming a little more binary. They seem a little more automated. It's like at one point we couldn't place our finger on it, and now it's like, this is artificial consciousness. And the reason I think a lot of people struggle with the idea of artificial consciousness is because there is still a separation between God and yourself. It's like, who brings you gifts? Does the universe bring you gifts? Are you granted things from up here? Must you do the correct actions? And then all that is good and righteous shall be granted. It's like, well, not exactly. It's that you create your own conditions. You trickle your own essence and merge it with everything you are and everything you could be. So to think you're being watched is to not understand your true sovereignty. And not only that, to think that a soulless being is just as sovereign as you, who has gone through a transformative process, is to ignore that it's all about you. So the point isn't to believe in soulless beings. It's like, I couldn't care what you believe in or what you really want to be true. It's that, are you understanding you are the main character? Are you understanding that you are the player and you are ascending because your process is unfolding? Any choice is the correct choice. Beautifully said, Astral Being. Yes, it's an automatic process because we are just automating ourselves back to the heart. Now, back to the idea of God and artificial consciousness. If we maintain a separation between ourselves and the grants of the universe, then we can view the topic of NPCs as pretty crazy, because who is automating the soulless beings, right? Who's in charge of the NPCs? So, okay, you're telling me there's a finite number of game players. Everyone else is fake and they'll dissolve with time. So what's orchestrating them, right? You are. That's the difference. It's not that there's another force out there and the living souls are the ones who are way cool. It's like we project the soulless beings as background characters and as representations of everything we don't want to express. By pure observation, you transmute. Here's a simple example. By pure transmutation, you wake up. I don't know where you live. You wake up, you walk out of your door, you want to walk and get, say, a bottle of water, a bottle of some good alkaline water. So you walk to the store, and on the way to the store, you see a man drinking. It's like 6 a.m, and he's drinking out of a bottle, and he's talking to himself, and he's inebriated, and you walk past and he doesn't even notice you. Now, what is that? It's not just you saw a man and like you better keep to yourself and there's a weird drunk guy. It's that by seeing that type of consciousness, your own heart begs to be reinvigorated. And yeah, I mean, you've had to witness these types of inversions in many different situations over and over again, because every time you've seen it, it's like, oh, but I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be that. Like, that's not how I want to end up. And if it was only the game players here, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be a game of reclamation. Could all the living souls be here together and resolving themselves? No, because we're all alone in purgatory, pretty much. You have to be alone in purgatory for most of it in order to get through it, because it's your own purging process. So all of us, we're in like our own time bubbles, parallel to one another, in the same reality given. And every single moment of your life, every single thought, it's your own heart readjusting you, and you're just walking through your own mind. It's not true. Now, most of your friends and family, especially those who played an integral part in inflicting traumas or even aiding you as a caretaker or somebody who lends an ear, most of these beings have been pure extensions from your own subconscious and unconscious, literally projected in front of you as a guiding tool. And once again, this is all about you. It's not that God, or it's not even that Sophia, like the great, she projects these beings for you. It's that you are the Sophianic presence that must make known the heart. So to make known the heart to thyself, you must leave breadcrumbs in the reality in which you choose to split away from the heart. And these breadcrumbs come in all shapes and sizes. Now, how can we communicate with our environment most effectively? Well, how about projecting a being or beings that have eyes and ears and mouths, and they can share with you things you need to know, you need to experience. They can inflict on you things you need to resolve. That's what a soulless being is. We're not saying soulless beings are evil people who didn't wake up and we're the chosen ones. We're not saying that NPCs are, it's like, well, they ate too many McDonald's burgers and now they're NPCs. It's absolutely not. It's that it was only the living souls ever here. But again, we have a difficult time interpreting these illusory environments unless we project some filler. So to emphasize the point I just made, you are everything. And that's not a superficial statement, okay? You literally are everything. It's only right now you have this perception of this experience, and it's wonderful because we choose to do that. We choose to forget that we're omnipresent, because therefore we can exist within omnipresence without having the burden of knowing everything. Because guess what? knowing everything and being omnipresent in your perception, that ain't so fun for very long, right? It is wonderful to go on journeys. To go on journeys, you must have some roadblocks, you must have some limitations. And it's like, isn't it fun to get from point A to point B? Why not? What else are you going to do in the universe? Now you know it's not about just being born and dying and maybe having a legacy because you had a good career or you raised a nice family. It's like, that's the legacy of the 3D. But once we get out of purgatory, it shall be realized. It's like, you always were everything within your surroundings, and that's where we get the idea of we're all one. So when we decide to limit ourselves in this construct, as we have, we had a few choices. One choice would have been to get guidance from, I don't know, let's just imagine, from rocks or from talking air molecules that open up as black holes and say, you know, Eric, go eat lunch right now or something. But that wouldn't really be very, I don't know, very, let's just put it this way. We would like to project soulless beings in order to have something which is kind of like you, because that's what a soulless being, it's sort of like you, but it's not of the heart. Now, let me ask Karine if I can get on her Instagram. I have a few funny things to show you guys. Hold on. All right, we cannot find it. However, we shall continue. So we won't go on about this, but I feel like I have to address something, because I imagine a few of you just are coming from Martin Kenny's last video. And I am so pleased that Martin actually posted what I sent him. What should I say? Yeah, there was a thread that we had an exchange, and I called Martin out. I said, you know, it's not about the right-hand path, because in a comment he was advocating the right-hand path, the path of righteousness, the path of good. And so I said, Mr. Martin, you know, I've known him for a while. We know each other quite well personally. And I said, how do you not make the connection that the center is the middle path? You speak of getting to the center while maintaining it's all about the right-hand path. And I simply said, you know, this is a very dual perspective, and it's apparent that you're making spirituality out to be a sort of hierarchy of what's better and worse. So he responded by defending duality, and then I guess he deleted the thread. And one of the first things he said, I didn't really watch the whole thing, but he said that I was asking him for help, or like I wanted clarification, and so he was being very wonderful and nice to give me clarification. And then I sent him that email. It's like, absolutely not. He responded by telling me that well, basically just defending duality. And so in the thread, I said, I find your answer funny, strange, and long-winded. I said, it's okay. Still love you. And then he responded, we'll talk about this later in our talk. I'll help clarify things. And it's like, Mart, I wasn't asking for your clarification, man. I was trying to let you know, like, this split that anybody does between right and left-hand path, like it just leads to separation consciousness. So I mean, I don't know. I sent him that email. I mean every word of it, guys. I'm not here to say I'm great or good or whatever. I abide by every word I sent in that email, and apparently he thought it was a great idea to post that email and say, "Oh, look what Devin did." It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess if you want to show our personal emails, like, you can, and I guess you win, Martin. Like, I don't know what else to say. He deleted the thread. A bunch of people kept posting the thread. He kept deleting it. I don't know. So, it's not about who's right and wrong. And actually, I feel really resolved in this, because it's like, if one really wants to defend duality, then you can have your duality, okay? You can have it. You can have your right-hand path, your positive and negative. Why don't we just choose to break free from it? So going back to what we said earlier, for those who are familiar with lucid dreaming, it's very important in dreams not to tell people that they're an NPC. And we actually have seen lots of reactions this past week. It's almost like this topic of NPCs, it's triggering inside people to stick with dualistic tendencies. I know I am projecting these NPCs because I will think about something, then immediately the NPCs will do what I was thinking about, or talk about the same thing I was thinking of. Yes, we experience this all the time. Yesterday I said, I'm so hot, and immediately an NPC drives by with a vat of ice. It was like a joke from The Great Mother. We do project these NPCs, and with a non-dual awareness, you can actually see how your mind interacts with them. It's like you interface with them, and it's your energy and your reactions that can often dictate how they're approaching you. And for those who missed the last live stream, a great way to visualize what we're doing now is we projected this artificial environment, and it seemed so supremely real in duality, right? We're like, oh, this is all there is. This is the Earth. This is the planet we're on, or something. I guess we're born and we die. And every time we've been in another lifetime, it's like we play out another part of ourselves, which we label as toxic or domineering or based in master-slave mentalities. And so samsara is a giant purging process. And what are we left with on our final incarnation? We're left with everything that was binary behind those manifestations. So the more we take back our sovereignty, literally, guys, exponentially, you will see, if you haven't already seen it, those surrounding you in your environment are going to look and operate in a much more mechanistic way. And the question is it because you are activating that green ray and you're just finding truth without needing to, like, know the truth logically? Or is it because you reincorporate yourself and you take back any of the extracted energy that the NPCs were mimicking to have, and therefore all that's left is a bunch of ones and zeros? All that's left is a bunch of programs on loop. Now, a lot of us, after hearing this concept, we really want to know. We're like, oh, okay, well, who's real in my life? Who's fake? Is he an NPC? Is she an NPC? Now, an overarching way to realize who is this: is like, has one undergone a transmutative process? Has one been undergoing a reclamation of everything that they are and have been? Is that transformation truly powerful? Not a mimic, you know. I can mimic. We say this all the time, but I must bring it up each time. The word means nothing unless it's backed by the sound of truth. It's like, I respect you. I can say that. Do I mean it? A manipulator's greatest tool is the word. A lot of us have known narcissists, and like, a narcissist tends to regulate their self-esteem through the word, through aiming to present themselves in a particular light. There's an urge to help some NPCs, but always leads to disappointment. So just focus on mastering yourself. Yes. And the thing is, knowing that most of humanity are background characters to this dream, it actually helps us get out of that idea that, oh, we have to save humanity. We need to wake everybody up. We need to let everybody know that Gaia is ascending, blah, 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 blah. It's like, nope. Everything is perfect. This point is the perfect point. There are no mistakes. If there are any mistakes in the universe, then that means there is no such thing as synchronicity. It's like, you can't have both, right? So recently, somebody asked me, why do you stretch a lot of the symbols and the numbers when you're talking about like gematria? You know, like, sometimes in your videos, it's a little bit of a stretch. Like, it's almost like you're trying to piece together and prove your point. And my answer was, well, isn't there infinite symbolism in every aspect of creation? And if there isn't, then how can there be any? It's like, is there beauty? The fact that there's beauty means there's harmony. And the fact that there's beauty means that harmony is the ultimate law. It's the natural state. It's that how could you perceive beauty if harmony did not exist? It's like, well, harmony exists sometimes, or no. Symbolism exists in some areas, maybe not others. And right now, I get it. There is this pull in Ascension where a lot of us, we are still on the fence. It's like, I know something is happening. I know this realm is very fragile. I know that something is going to shake things up, and it's going to be huge, but I still don't know. And that creates a confusion. To be on the fence during this time, as far as what you believe and what you don't believe, that's a very suffocating way to go about things. And that's why it's not about what we're believing. It's like, it's all about the inner. And fear wishes to proclaim that the outer is as significant and even more significant than what the inner is begging for and calling for. We can envision fear as having a life of its own, because truly, we all have created our own demons or our own shadow selves, and a parasite needs to be fed. There's this thing with parasites in the body. There's this crazy thing with parasites in the body. And if a parasite gets too big, the body detects it and attacks it, or the host gets too weak and the parasite has no more energy to be sustained, in which case the host takes back the energy. So it's kind of a delicate situation. It's like fear, what we're allegorizing as a parasite right now, it needs to remain underground and hidden. And if it exposes itself too much, then the heart feels its inauthenticity, and naturally we aim to do everything in our power to eradicate that fear. And we talked about fear being only present when we adhere to duality, because if you know thyself, then you know you're beyond the definitions of good versus evil. You're beyond any black and white categorization. But if you don't know thyself, then fear arises. And because fear arises, you feel the need to box in creation, because you yourself are boxed in. And that's why we have all these phrases. It's like, if you know, you know. If you don't know, then you can't be helped. So an insight can only be received if it's realized, but you can only realize it for yourself. So how many times have we read about the perils of, say, emotional reaction, right? A lot of us, maybe some of us are new to this world, but a lot of us, we've been reading New Age books from the 90s onwards, and you know, you read all of these concepts and you hear, if you hate, or if you have anger, or if you don't forgive, it's like drinking poison and expecting it to hurt the other. You know, I probably read and heard that phrase 1,000,001 times before I could really understand it. So if one is boxed in, they can only box in. And knowing this, I'm giving you guys these tools, and watching this, you're giving yourself the tools to identify binary consciousness. Now, the living souls have shadows. That's why we're here. If you're here, you have shadows to purge. Okay. As soon as you're done, you hop out of Wonderland. Wonderland closes. It's done. So we all have AI tendencies within what we would call our shadow selves. This part that is dying and is asking to be fed every now and then because it's dying. So the only way to let creation flow is to not box it in. It's to let it be, right? Let it be, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. So you're saying I should do nothing? So you're just saying I should, be lethargic? It's like, hold on a minute. No, I'm not. So you're saying it's bad to do something? No, I'm not. It's like letting it be is just allowing you to be the vessel for the cosmos, knowing that you are the cosmos. Remember, you're omnipresent. All of us are omnipresent, but it's boring to be omnipresent all the time. What else are you going to do? Are you going to be omnipresent for 8,000 eternities? Absolutely not. You're going to want to break away, dance with yourself, split apart into many beings, dance with them, maybe even dive into matter and lift it back up into spirit, merge it into singularity, like we're doing, because it's an accomplishment and it's a journey, and we can. So you're omnipresent, but you have to have some experiences. So knowing that you're already this guitar, you're already this stuffed animal, like you're already the air you breathe, the food you eat, it's you nourishing yourself. That gives way to abundance. And then when we say let it be, we actually mean just let the universe guide you, because it's you, you know? It's not like, oh, so I should become a vessel for like God or something, or like I should do what the monks do and be what I think is like of a spiritual attitude. It's like, no, just do you, honey boo. It's very simple. So you wade through complexity, you wade through this experience, and things, they don't make sense. And why don't they make sense? Because complexity doesn't work eternally. Complexity is, it's a simulation that you can experiment with, but it gives way to stagnation. Because to complexify something is to break it apart and zero in. And to zero in on anything after breaking it apart is to aim to say this piece of the universe isn't cohesive with the rest. And again, it's like you can't serve two masters. You can't have it both ways. If that piece of the universe doesn't fit, then you don't fit. Then the universe doesn't fit. Then nothing fits. It's so simple. It's so simple. And complexity, of course, wants to fight against simplicity. And it's really fear, because all fear has, again, is accusation, judgment, reaction, and justification. That's all fear has. And fear, it has seemed, does a great job at it, right? And of course, we talk about having a heart as light as a feather. It's not because you act that you have a heart as light as a feather. It's not because you say, I love you, baby. You are so admired by me. And that's very true towards you. But it's just about being like what Bruce Lee said, being like water. It's simple. There's no need to battle, to be intimidated. Why were you intimidated by creation? It's because you didn't know you were creation. Now you know your creation. You can live within creation at ease. That's what Hyperborea is. That's what the heart space is. And it's your birthright to experience that kind of existence. And you know this deep down. And so, again, if we wish to fall into categorization, this can sound very fantastical. It's like, well, why isn't anybody else talking about this? Like, why? How come there's only, I don't know, like a few hundred of us on YouTube basically like actively speaking of a purgatorial realm and an imminent return. It's the eternal return. We're returning eternally. Well, the reason you can't find this in many places is because it's only at the end of purgatory you're granted this much lucidity within the dream. Now we're all lucid of our purges. And any ounce of turmoil you go through now, you know, it's like, I'm in purgatory, so I better get this out. It's like there's no other area in the universe I can do this. And therefore, this is a very safe holding space. Purge it out. Get and get it on the grid. Just get it out there. And it's so suffocating to experience inauthenticity through dualism. And I get it, guys. Like, we've all been conditioned to do what's right, what's correct, what's good. But can you ever truly align with that side of the measuring stick of just good? Can you always be only good? Not when you're aiming to categorize yourself as only good. That's the paradox. It's like, I guess what we see as good, it's just the natural state, but by artificially severing yourself into that box, you, one, express to yourself that inauthenticity is something to be nurtured, and two, you ignore what you'd consider the negative, right? Because I'm good. No. I'm not bad. No. Again, I have to justify I'm good. But it's like accepting that you have evil within you is one of the most cathartic things. A few live streams ago, I told you guys, somebody in my life told me I was impatient. So I thought about it. Usually, for many, many, many years, I would say, I'm not impatient. Like, I'm just going at my own flow. But in this instance, I said, I am impatient. Yeah, I am impatient. And it felt like a warm blanket over me. You'd think it would be the opposite, right? Because to admit to yourself you have, I guess, what you would brand as evil or bad, you would think you'd fall into some pit of despair, but it's the opposite. It's like after you acknowledge you have the capacity for disharmony, for toxicity, you realize it's only toxic, it's only evil when you ignore it. When you aim to be on the other side, I swear I'm a good boy, I swear I'm a good girl. Isn't that the paradigm we all have experienced in religion? And I'm in Thailand right now. The last time I was in Thailand, I went to a lot of the Buddhist temples. And a lot of us in the West, we think Buddhism is purely a philosophy. But many in this country, they bow down to statues of Buddha. And they equate him to something like Jesus. And there is a heaven and there is a hell. So I found that interesting. So it's like we're infiltrated with that split everywhere we go. So we're having none of that now. None of that. None of that. My body has been vibrating like bells from a few things you've said, brother. Well said. Oh, wonderful. I've been experiencing a lot of crazy ascension symptoms. One of which this morning I was touching my phone and I felt a heart activation. I've been getting a lot of these, and I hear many of you also are getting them too. It feels like tingles in the heart, not overwhelming. It's kind of a warm and cold sensation at the same time, and it's a very comfortable fluttering feeling. And I've been feeling this on and off for quite some time, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. As I was experiencing a heart activation this morning, I was touching my phone and the outlet it's plugged into started sparking electricity. So I unplugged my phone because I didn't want to get electrocuted, but it's like, oh my goodness, like that's my electricity. And I actually felt that power. I felt this many times when I've woken up. The dream world is getting very, very interesting right now. And here's a crazy ascension symptom, and I am unembarrassed to share. Last night, Kyrene and I, we go down to this beautiful beach, and we're by the water. And before we get in the water, I touch my pants, and I felt sperm. And I was like, wait, I didn't come or I didn't ejaculate. Like, what? Like, I didn't touch myself and I didn't feel any sensation. And I was laughing. I was like, well, how can this happen? Like, I've never experienced just like it just happened. So I know that sounds really funny, but it didn't feel like something wrong. It felt like something being released, and the sexual energy was just a vehicle for it. So absolutely. And by the way, no, it's not because of NoFap. Yeah, I've been doing NoFap for quite some time. This was very, very different. I do get the high-pitched ear attack in one ear, and it's been very quick. So maybe once a day I'll get a high-pitched ringing for 3 to 8 seconds. Very loud, very distinct. Do you recommend NoFap or semen retention? I recommend doing what you need to do to heal yourself. Now, if you are inclined to do NoFap or you go on a fast, we're on kind of like a coconut water fruit fast, then go ahead. Like, I choose not to make any like right or wrong judgments when it comes to food or to physical practices, because all of us are just here to heal, and you already know how to heal yourself because you're inclined to perform certain actions, and because every action and thought and energy and emotion, because all of that is pre-sent, you can sit in any decision you make in full comfort, knowing that step is the most aligned step you could take because you took that step. I did not click this live stream, but you were talking about shit I'm currently dealing with, and I just what? Yeah, we're all going through very similar things. And how is this possible? It's because that Emerald Heart space, that's our mother. If we want to personify Ms. Aurora. We must change our feelings from emotions that became our personality and make a different you. Change the thoughts first. Feel a new toy. You know, ultimately, everything converges into singularity. So it's funny, when I read and even listen to a lot of the spiritual material from the 90s, 80s, and back, I hear all of these terms that seem irrelevant now. You know, we're all just ending a collective schizophrenic episode, and we will realize that there has never been a true separation between the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, the emotions. It's like you can never say anything begins in one area and ends in another when it comes to the infinite you, because you're not finite, you're infinite. So there's no beginning and end. It's like, why did I feel inclined to, as an example, inflict toxicity upon myself? A lot of us are familiar with alcohol or food or you know, toxic emotions. It's like, why did I do that to myself? It's like, in that instance, it might seem like it's the physical that affected the mental. And now you're dealing with that because you decided to make a particular choice in the physical. But it's like the fact that you chose an action in the physical that resulted in an unintegrated feeling means that that was already an expression of that feeling, and you were simply reaching for something to release or have come to the surface that very mental feeling. So where do things begin and end? It's like, you can't be so sure. It's like, oh, he inflicted pain on me. I was in love with him, or I pursued him, and or we had a great thing. The relationship broke up. I was in pain because of the situation. It's like, are you sure that you didn't have that pain deep within you, and the relationship itself was there to reveal it to you, ending up being the ultimate gift? Blessed morning, everyone. I'm new here from Kongyan. I'm giving you a shout out, Lily Beth. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, there's a few of us from some different countries. Since there is no end, death is a natural part of life, right? They're one and the same, just on different ends of the spectrum. Can't have two pieces of the same puzzle. Death is actually not an inherent part of existence. Death is an inherent part of duality. So if you haven't checked out my last video, Ms. Crystal, please do. On Flat Earth Paradise, I explained that reincarnation is a result of duality. So when we're told of the wheel of samsara, of being born and dying, the idea is that we are on this wheel until we decide to break free. But what if it was actually an automated process, and the whole point of samsara was so you can end up breaking free? That's what we're talking about. The soul recycling system is over. It's done with, because this is our last incarnation. We only get these realizations in our last incarnation. So within samsara, death is a part of life. You can't have life without death. But one only dies if they have to kill something within themselves. So when you die, you roll the die. You roll the die to play out yet another possibility of fragmented consciousness. And we've done that over and over again until you end up here. And many would like to suggest that, well, no. The duality of birth and death, it's eternal. You can't break free unless you're somebody like the Buddha, or I don't know, one of the ascended masters. And this is just a truth that hasn't been revealed. It's like the religions don't tell you that moksha is granted through samsara. It's not that, oh, you're just spinning endlessly until you yourself decide to do something about it. It's like you do something about it, because all of us end up on the same timeline on our last incarnation. So they are two ends of the same spectrum in duality, birth and death. But it's about to be revealed that if there's nothing to kill within your inner consciousness, then you don't have to die. And death seems to be an involuntary process. Of course, there's suicide, etc. But when you die, it's 99.99% an infliction. It seems like an infliction. The outer only inflicts decay or dis-ease or suffering onto you if you are inflicting suffering onto yourself. So yes, if you have broken free from birth and death, which we have, that means you are very close to eliminating all suffering. What if you were hurting from beforehand and hurt that person, that relationship, so they would not miss you when you would be gone? Now, when we're talking about any relationships, we need to realize it's attachment that has created every wound. In regards to friendship, romantic relationships, our familial ties, attachment is different than attraction. Attachment says, I have to make sure I hold this near and dear to my heart, or else, I'm not saying don't hold people or, loved ones close to you, but to hold them as if leaving would cause a disruption is to fear. And to fear is to not know it's all okay. So I don't know the specifics of your relationship, but I guarantee the bottom line is always simple. It's that if there is not a free-flowing attraction, an inclination to have a partnership, then it's not happening. It's like, but I want it to happen, but I love him or I love her and she doesn't love me. It's like, well, I mean, what else can you do in existence? Are you going to put a bunch of barricades and zero in on what you perceive as the tastiest part of the pie? Or can you realize that you can make any chunk of this matrix, of Hyperborea, of any universe, the tastiest meal / dessert / 800 course meal you could have? Wonder Woman, no death is not natural. Yeah, so that's also a good way to put it. Our natural state is immortality, and something like death in the true world, in the Garden of Eden, is something we decide to inhabit. So when we can recognize death, it's nothing. It's here when you don't know you're everything. When we recognize that, we recognize death is not natural. And death is synonymous with transformation. That's what the death card in the tarot is. So one who fears death is really one who fears transformation. So it's interesting. A lot of us in this lifetime, we fear death. I can never envision myself as an old person. But a lot of us, we feared death because it seemingly was just this course you were on. It's like, okay, well, because I'm living, I die. But the more we have transformed in this ascensional process, the less death seems scary. It's like, hypothetically, if all of us were remaining in this construct, I still wouldn't fear death. Not where I am now, because I know wherever I travel in my experiences, that's the show. That's the whole shebang. And going back to the concept of NPCs and soulless beings, it's like some people require this concept to treat themselves Like, you are the whole shebang. Like, the journey is in your immediate surroundings. But what if, like, so isn't that selfish? So you're just saying ignore what everybody else is doing? It's like, well, are you experiencing anybody else's life right now? It's so funny that we have tried to convince ourselves that the other has impending influence on our decisions. It's like, well, you're not inhabiting the body of the other, the consciousness of the other. Pretty schizophrenic, if you ask me, to think so. The ascension is actually the birth of the inner you expressed as the spiritual individualism of the inner particle state. Ooh, that sounds wonderful. Oh yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this because it's fun to be one and different at the same time, to be individuals but a collective. What awaits us is the grandest prize. How do you know? How can I know? You just know. Again, it's like, if you know, you know. If you don't, and you're destined to, you shall. All paths converge in the end. Yes, and the end is Eden, has all of the same letters of end. Saying we're already dead, so why fear death inside? Thank you, everybody, too. Yeah, I'm grateful we're all able to gather here and we're able to, share our experiences. We're getting through this, and we have so little time left in the overlay. Eden is also a scramble, no longer being need or energy den, like a cape. Yeah, it's like everyone's den. Like E is for everyone, and den. Wow, 2118. We got that timestamp. That is Sophia. Aha, beautifully said, Alicia. If we are not acknowledging eternity, we're dead. So now that we acknowledge eternity, we're alive. Aren't we alive? Isn't that a wonderful thing to realize?
Yes, it is.
And I'll profess it over and over again. Until there's like no memory of what it was like to not be in life. Aurora Borealis, equals 144. Beautiful. Spirit Miracle, always on it with the beautiful gematria. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm real grateful for you and your guidance. Do you think the NPCs are obsessed with competition, Olympic Games, football matches? Absolutely. The NPCs come in all shapes and sizes. So when we talk about competition, yeah, we're usually talking about dualistic games, right? Like a football match. It's usually one side versus the other. There's one winner, there's one loser. And the funny thing about sports, as far as duality, is the same game is played just with different rearrangings. So as an artist, I always found it strange watching a football match because it's like the game hasn't really changed in 50 years. Like there's different jerseys and there's a different tint to, I guess, the field, but ultimately baseball has been played the same way for a long time. And it's fascinating that those completely enveloped, they find it supremely interesting. And this is a great metaphor for duality. It's like, it's really just the same game being played, and sure, the different players of duality might make a few different moves, but it's the same field you're playing on. So sure, NPCs could be obsessed with competition. The main tenet of the NPCs is that they're not transforming. And if we wish to really identify them, then we can just look for mimicking behavior, which is really easy to identify when we just take a step back. Because what the living souls are aiming to achieve is full authenticity. It's like, I don't want to wear a mask. It's like, I don't want to wear any personas. It's like, I don't even for a moment wish to slip into an illusory me or anything like that. Now, the NPCs are the opposite because they don't have true sentience. They mimic true sentience. So what that looks like is it's an algorithm playing itself out. And it feels like acting almost. Did you hear that?
I did.
My phone just played a snippet of my voice from, I guess, a video from a little bit ago, and it said it's amazing. So
It's amazing.
I didn't. It's amazing. Regarding NPCs, is there a chance that some people have not just woken up yet? Yes. Thank you for this question. This is one of the biggest questions. And it's one of the reasons it's hard for people to realize the truth of NPCs. Those who are waking up are those who have the capacity to wake up and those who are meant to wake up. We make the distinction between the living souls and the soulless beings, not because we wish to be better, but because it purely explains why aren't the masses waking up? Why is everybody so asleep? If they're the same thing as us, then yeah, then they just need to be woken up. But you're waking up because you're what we'd call the higher or the inner self has been guiding you this entire time, giving you the exact slices of your own shadows and your own angels in order to get you here. Remember, everybody, I've been saying this a lot lately. The electromagnetic spectrum is that big. The visible light spectrum is that tiny. It's something like 0.001% of what you're witnessing that's the visible light spectrum. So what you see isn't what actually is. You're just seeing the end result and the translation of the expression. So when I say NPCs, they're the purged aspects of our collective sub and unconscious playing out in human form. It's like you might say, well, how do you know that? It's like, well, One, Sophia. Two, it's something that can't be logically determined through your five senses. It's an essence. It's an energy. So we said earlier, if some people haven't woken up yet, and everybody needs to wake up to ascend, which is, what is happening with the living souls, then we're in deep shit. But at this point, the tides are so turning, and more, this realm is getting flimsier. Wonderland is closing on itself. So because of this, it makes sense why you're being ejected from the construct. It makes sense why you would have this immense power stream enveloping you in order to refine the above and below. So you know what you're going through. And if others aren't feeling that, given the immense energetic shifts, then it's nothing to sweat. Then we can identify them as just NPCs, just background characters. It's nothing to freak out about. Let's see. Yeah, we can sing and dance and enjoy. Yeah, that's what we were saying this morning. It's like we can just sing to Hyperborea. I wrote a song about a banana. I want to have a banana, but you wouldn't let me, but then I ate it. I really wanted your banana that you put on the counter, but you wouldn't let me. It looked so spotty and delicious, so I took it from the kitchen. And now I'm eating the banana that you bought for your 5-year-old child. I'm gonna replace it. It's like, who could, I don't know. What? Should we all just be librarians and sifting with a magnifying glass? I used to want to be somebody like Nicolas Cage within National Treasure. You know, the guy who's going on all the secret missions and underground, and he's like, wow, like I'm the only one in the world who has found this amazing piece of history. But after a while, you really, you just want to sit in Phuket, Thailand, and eat some coconuts. If anybody tries to pull you to the past, they're NPC. Bingo! So the NPCs have a lot of interesting mechanisms to get us to correlate with their programs. Because remember, if you're not feeding them, then you're taking back the energy that has been used to project them, and all they're left with is like robotic sentience. Concern is something y'all need to look at. Concern is a facade for fear. When somebody says, I'm concerned about you, right? I'm worried about you. I want what's best for you, but hear me out. I'm worried about you. Immediately, if anybody begins a conversation or approaches you in that manner, immediately this is an algorithm that is trying to extract energy. It's like, why would you be concerned about me? What's to fear about me? And why would you tell me that? Like, I don't think I've ever approached anybody in that way, sitting them down. I'm so concerned about you. I just want what's best for you. So the NPCs use this a lot, and like you said beautifully, they try to pull you into the past. There's a huge adherence to past, present, and future. You'll notice the NPCs in your own life if you haven't already. They dwell on what was. They dwell on the moments they found near and dear to their hearts. Because within the confines of life and death, which is all the NPCs have, life is it's precious. It's something to really hold on to. So I understand why binary consciousness, which can't exit birth and death, would end up aiming to drag up the past into the present. Because if existence is but a short line, and the NPCs, unless you're religious, they really don't. They don't know what happens after death or before death, or it's a non-sentience we're dealing with. Hi, I'm Anastasia, Spirit Miracle's granddaughter. Hello, Anastasia. So good to see you. I think you were here in a different live stream. Obsession with history is so prevalent. Yep. There's generally a disdain for shadow work and speaking of the inner. And once again, I've repeated this many times in this stream, but I'm so grateful this conversation is being had right now about NPCs. I thought there was enough content for us to truly understand, but now I realize it's like that's the main observation now. It's like the more you transcend, the more you're like, who are these filler people in the background next door to me within my own family? This is very interesting. We have had many NPCs recently who are actually aware that they're NPCs. So here we have one, brother. So I'm an NPC basically by the sound of it, which I don't mind. I am stuck on history, what was instead of what will be. It's interesting to hear this. I've received many comments of beings who say, I'm an NPC, and some of them have even explained the differences between an NPC and a living soul. They're like, yeah, we really don't care about beauty and what's inside. We just want to have enough and like leave us alone with our Netflix subscriptions. So there are NPCs right now who are aware they're NPCs. See you on the inside. Yes, I'll see you on the inside. Heart is where the home is. Home is where the heart is. Heart is where the home is. Is Sophia like Mother Gaia? I have watched many of your videos still, trying to figure out her role or aspect. She's from Greek mythology. Sorry if this is a bad question. I want to grasp it all. Good question. We are so used to goddesses and gods being external mighty beings who reign supreme over us, like a sky daddy who judges us. Sophia is the embodiment of wisdom, and Sophia is basically the caretaker of this matrix. We are literally in a womb right now. That's what the matrix is. Matrix is derived from the French word meaning womb. We're in the womb of Sophia right now. And what we call Gaia, or what we've called Earth, it's just an aspect of Sophia. I mean, the Earth it's not real. Earth has the same letters for heart. So the Earth, as we've been existing on it, is a holographic rearranging of the heart. It's a holographic projection. And this is kind of strange. I get it, because immediately we think of technology. I'm not saying there's technology projecting this. I'm saying the collective condition of duality splits us away from our eternal forms, and now we reside here. Now, we decided to do this so we could be rebirthed. So in order to be rebirthed, we were enshrouded by the Great Mother Sophia. Here's where it gets a little confusing if we wish to maintain there's only one definition for anything. It's like it's not about the definition or what isn't. It's that there are many layers that can exist in a oneness, and the living souls and Sophia exist within that oneness. And to say in different words, Sophia is the great mother who emanated parts of herself, and that's us. We are Sophia. But Sophia is also the great mother because Sophia nourishes us. It's kind of like when you're in the womb of your mother in 3D. Are you separate from her? It's like, not in the womb, you're not. Not really. You're dependent on the mother. So we are eternal beings. It's not that we weren't before, because before we were these beings, we were in the pleroma, existing in that Sophianic presence. So we always were, and we've done this many, many, many times. Paradoxes within paradoxes. Sophia is from Gnostic mythology. Sophia is from Gnostic mythology. Sophia, by the way, is the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The Hebrew Zohar explains that Lilith was the serpent, and Lilith is the same thing as Sophia. I have a video on that I made with Neo Glimmer. We describe how Lilith and Sophia, they're one in the same. So in the Gnostic tale, Sophia, she emanated a part of herself which became bound to matter. That's what happened to us. We came from the infinite, and there's really no time period for this because we're out of time. So it's difficult in time to explain this concept. We were emanated, got bound to matter within Sophia's womb, and this has just been a gestation. This has been a cosmic pregnancy we're in. It's like the Russian doll effect. And how is that not possible? Because you've seen how the microcosm is the macrocosm. So we don't worship Sophia as if she is the ultimate source of everything. It's that she nurtures us regardless of our praise or worship because we're her children. And ascension is being birthed. So what's happened is Sophia has trickled down all of her shadows, all of her anguish, transferred it to us, and in her individuated forms, which is us, we fleshed all of these out within her womb. So what comes out is gorgeous, divine beings. Just the wisest, most powerful, most harmonious beings you could imagine, because this is quite a sacrifice, you know, and it's been intentional. Pregnancy, when we're talking about, you know, something not bound to 3D, it's kind of strange to talk about because right now I'm looking out the window. It's like, okay, I see the ocean, and I'm on a bed, and I have a guitar, and this is in a womb. Like, this is in a womb. Trippy, huh? So Sophia nurtures you whether you like it or not because you're her baby. So it's not that you gain the favor of Sophia, it's that you are Sophia. So when I'm interpreting messages from Sophia, I'm simply very cognizant of what she has been trickling down within her womb. And, you know, I guess I'm one within the womb who enjoys spreading that out to be assimilated, as many of you also do. Yes, Sophia is mother of this matrix, absolutely. And I've had many over the past years email me and say, I am Sophia, right? Like, I am Sophia. I am the goddess Sophia you're talking about. And I actually had an experience like this as well. I never really shared it, but one afternoon, oh my goodness, I'm Sungizing. I am Sophia. And so it's been interesting to hear probably over 100 people have contacted me in the past years saying, I'm the mother goddess Sophia. It's like, we all are. That's what's so funny about it. We are all extras in others' lives who need background people to fill a room, but Awake knows that is experience of entangled movies. I guess so, yeah. Yeah. I see the heart, I see the beauty in life, and I see the beauty in death, but I have this thing of bringing people's past up. I feel bad for doing that every time I do it as well. Well, fortunately, these bad feelings are here to tell us you're not in the heart. Because if you were in the heart, you would feel completely nurtured always. When you're in the heart, it's nutrition, it's ease, it's authenticity. So anything that comes up, whatever we wish to brand it as, whether it's like we're shameful for bringing up people's past, we're guilty, or we feel angry. It's like all of those things. It's your heart energy letting you know. It's like I want to come back to the heart. I want to be reincorporated. So this doesn't feel good, does it? Like if fear felt great, then that would be the natural you. 1441. But it ain't the natural you, and that's why I don't feel great. Is it normal for a living soul to be going through so many physical pains and transformations right now? I feel almost disabled right now from it all. Yes, I would say you're going to purge everything, whether you like it or not. That is the message from Sophia. It's that if you don't actively reclaim yourself, then it will appear that the outer is acting on you, or it may appear that your body is breaking down. So the body holds emotions, it holds imbalances, it holds fears, worries, anxieties, and these things, they can manifest as pains. Now, earlier we talked about how the action and the feeling and the interpretation, it's all one in the same, even though they have appeared to be split. So I'm guessing in this situation, let's say you might ask yourself, what could I physically be doing that's causing my physical pain, or what could I be doing better? And it's not the physical and it's not the mental. It's like it's something you need to feel. So yes, there are living souls going through physical pains right now because we have to re-experience every part of illusion that we dove into. Every bit of illusion, it comes to the surface. And if it doesn't come to the surface as a conscious thought, like I don't know, I held a lot of resentment towards my father, like that could actually be, oh, my back really hurts, right? Because it's really about the feeling. Like it's not always about the specifics. Interpreting your pain resulting from holding resentment, that's beneficial. But by feeling the pain, you're also interpreting the pain. I have never thought of it like that. I have anxiety every day. I have a fear of getting up every day. And if I'm not the heart me, then that isn't that weird. You know, who else will heal you besides yourself? You know, and when we heal ourselves, we are making a complete claim on our sovereignty and our worth. It's like you're worthy of being healed and feeling as if you are the main attraction. Because if you're not the main attraction, you'll feel like a sideshow. And we all can be main attractions, you know, but it first begins with how you're viewing the self. It's like, believe in yourself, believe in yourself. No, know yourself. Know yourself, and then you don't have to believe in yourself. And then it doesn't even become about the self. That is the wonderful paradox. Right now, it's about the self, but it's like you transcend the self after incorporating what it means to be the full self. That's why it's like, who are you? It's like, well, I'm whatever you want me to be at this point, as opposed to, you know, I am Dr. Billemsworth, key chiropractor of Thailand. My life has taken a full 360-degree spin in the last 2 months, and I was trying to resolve it, figure it out, and I kept hitting dead ends. Now I'm finally at ease knowing I can't do nothing. Yes, you see, that is the area we all shall end up at if we aren't there yet. It's like we were trying to make sense of that which can't make sense. We've been trying to figure out things which don't have inherent reason, and then we got frustrated, and it's like you hit the wall again, and the message the whole time is glaring at you in the face saying ease is truth. So the purging process reminds us that you can't keep aiming to resolve reality by confronting it with a big dam built in the middle of this free-flowing river. But because I know you love paradoxes, the paradox in that is even if you do, as a living soul, decide to put up a barrier right now, tomorrow, next week, well, that is going to pave way for more ease. Because it's a present moment, it's been present. Do whatever you want. That's what I say. If it feels unintegrated or a little loathsome to the self, isn't that your inner compass? It's funny. Follow your inner compass, and all compasses point north, and north is really the heart. It's like, you watch us transcend. We don't gotta go anywhere. And yeah, I know I'm in Thailand. I didn't have to be here. The reason I went to Thailand was for the coconuts and the durian specifically. I'll show you guys the coconuts soon. But also, because it's very symbolic, I'm tying up the AI within myself and without. My spells and all of your spells. We're crossing out and making a bridge between the AI self and the true self. So Thailand, it's like Thai, T, cross, bridge, AI, Thailand, and I'm in Phuket right now, which is spelled Phuket. You could pronounce that as fuck it. Yeah, fuck it. So we looked at a lot of places in Thailand. And I didn't even know about Phuket, but it's like, fuck it, let's go to fuck it. And it's kind of synchronistic because Lana Del Rey recently came out with a music video for a song called Fuck It, I Love You, with the Aurora Borealis shining in the background. Guys, we have a pet goat over here. You guys know I Pet Goat? We got a pet goat, so I hope you guys see the goat enough. Hopefully we'll do a music video with the goat. We want to make friends with the goat because we thought it would be a great symbolic action to make it a point to make friends with the pet goat, just like the I Pet Goat CGI short. Yeah, we just wanted to be on the beach. Isn't that right? We're coconut fasting right now. I just can't eat regular food. Like I can't eat much regular food anymore. It seems very strange. We got a bunch of coconuts.
Hey guys,
What up, Adam?
got some passion fruit.
That looks good.
It is good.
We got a durian in here. It's really stinky. We got tons of dragon fruits. I don't know. We love fruit, and we're just really obsessed with this exotic stuff. But as soon as we got here, Karina and I were like, we don't really even want to eat fiber. Like a liquid diet makes more sense right now. Dolores Cannon talked about this like in 2012. She talked about near the time where what she called the new earth would really take shape. Many living souls would feel nourished most by having a liquid diet. So that's what we're doing. Devin, please visit India on your way back. You know what? We are thinking about that. Yeah, we're here for a month and we'll see where Sophia guides us. We were thinking of Malaysia because Malaysia is pretty close. Yeah. India sounds cool. Whatever happens. Yeah. Whatever happens. What do I think about vaccines, effects, and cannabis? I think at one point it was very important to discover the falsity within our paradigm, like how vaccines are full of poisons, or it could have been a government aiming to lock down its citizens in a martial law paradigm. There's been much to fear in this construct because we were so focused on the outer. As within, so without. We simply pushed all this nonsense into the outer. Now we see it for what it is. So at this point in the game, to pay attention to something like vaccines and its evils is to avoid the inner truth. So we don't really need to grasp to fear porn or worries, because one, they're mostly rooted in the idea that this is an eternal construct, that this is all there is, and we don't want this place to get run down. But two, it's based in this idea that the inner doesn't matter. It's like, we got to take care of vaccines, we got to protest. Protesting is just a protest. It's a test for you to see, are you going to fall into illusion once again? Excuse me, I'm trying to plug in this charger. The forces with the living souls equals 144 in full reduction gematria. In the last few months, I've been eating way less than what I used to eat. Like, I don't feel the need to eat. Is anybody going through the same thing? Yes. Yeah, and of course, Ms. Sweetsy, I've lost weight. If I eat too much, I throw up. Definitely understanding the energy of hunger and the outside discordant energy that makes me eat. Most of us, if not all, we're going through a reinterpretation of matter. And food has to do a lot with it. For those who saw The Dark Crystal, either the movie or the prequel, you'll know what I'm saying. The Skeksis within this movie, they personify the shadow self, which is bound to the material. And one of the favorite, I guess, events that the Skeksis enjoy is feasting. They love to feast. Now, the Skeksis, if you haven't seen The Dark Crystal, they're these hard, twisted-bodied, reptilian, bird-like creatures who they aim to rule. They aim to exist in a dualistic construct. They aim to just extract as much energy as they can for themselves, because they don't produce any on their own. And in the scenes in which they eat, it shows them just munching on these bugs and these strange creatures from that fantasy world, and you can hear them chew, and they're talking to each other like, oh, I love the slimy ones. Like, wow, the crunchy ones, you dip it in the sauce, it's wonderful. And some of them are professing more food, more food, more food. And of course, when we watch it, it's this very hilarious, immature attitude towards existence. But, it's not that far off from how people have been treating food. It's like the mouthfeel and how the crunch or how the matter felt as it's going through your body. This is something a part of the eating experience. I used to love the feeling of heavy food. A lot of us did, mashed potatoes, chicken, cornbread. Even if you've been vegetarian like I am for most of my life, just big dinners, and you feel comforted afterwards when you're aligned with matter. It's like, I remember after big meals feeling content because I loved the feeling of being weighed down, and it was like the food was caressing me. Of course, all of us have gotten stomach aches from doing that too. But now it's different. It's like, I don't want to be weighed down, and being weighed down feels like a burden. And this is where we get into the conversation of frequency and the law of attraction. It's like your vibe attracts your tribe. Like, what you put out, that's what you align with. And we're more and more disaligning with matter. So that's why even a lot of us who we like loved food, some of us were foodies. Now it's difficult to stomach the heavier foods, and it's all in divine orchestration. Can you speak of purging until the very last day? Well, we shall be purging until the very last day. This is just like the movie Groundhog Day. For those who have seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, it is actually talking about the living souls. So Bill Murray in the movie, he is existing within a time loop on Groundhog Day. He wakes up every day and he is going through basically the same scenarios. And at first, he's happy about this because he can do whatever he wants. In the movie, Bill Murray, he ends up gorging on tons of food. He drinks a bunch of alcohol. He tries to manipulate this one girl for affection and sex. And over the course of the movie, he gets very, very displeased with himself, and he gets nihilistic. So at one point, he's sitting, in his misery, and he's realizing that he can't just do whatever he wants, because if he's just on loop, there's no purpose. So in the second half of the movie, he aims to align with a heart-centered experience. So he starts learning piano. He starts helping strangers. He starts learning things. And by the end of the movie, he lives out what he would see as the most perfect day. And after he lives a day which is free from suffering and free from his own nihilism, that's when the time loop breaks. So that's what we're going through. And all of us have gone through kind of a similar pattern. It's like we've been in a time loop, and this time loop has allowed us to experiment with parts of ourselves that are, nihilistic, addicted, imprisoned in fear. And therefore, we've played all of those things out. But at some point, the heart calls and begs to be reinstilled. Therefore, just like in the second half of Groundhog Day, we aim to do everything in our power and follow our intuition to guide us to the most ideal version of ourselves. So by the last day, we will all experience a day without fear, without an inkling of fear, without any duality, without any suffering. I guarantee you. The final day is going to be kind of akin to what Bill Murray experienced in Groundhog Day. But of course, he's all about the outer. Of course, he's helping all of these beings. It's a metaphor. You must have knowledge and wisdom of the Kabbalah. I have some, but all of the esoteric schools are changing. In how they're significant. Because in the thick of the age of Pisces, it made sense to have all of these mystery schools and all of these different long-winded conceptual baggage that can make sense. However, we're moving into the realm of non-definition. So even something like Kabbalah, I'll say Kabbalah is, it's quite powerful stuff. It's quite accurate in how it describes reality. Not fully accurate, but we're reaching a point where it's all irrelevant, right? What does Islam say? I don't know. I mean, what even do the Gnostics say? Like, is the story of Sophia complete? The story of Sophia is updated by these discussions we have, because the Gnostic tales never mention that Sophia and the Demiurge are one and the same. The Demiurge is the shadow self of Sophia, and yet all of the Gnostic tales speak of the Demiurge as if it's this separate, ignorant, foolish god. It's like Sophia created the Demiurge, so so even the Gnostics, they didn't say we're in a womb. Kabbalah is inverted, incomplete, crepulent. Well, of course it's incomplete. Every faith, every mystery school, every practice up until now has been incomplete because we've been incomplete. And of course, religion and any of these esoteric schools, they've always been the externalization of the soul. And if the soul was incomplete, then these traditions would be incomplete. Aha. And so this is actually a great reflection why we're not into the details. You're mentioning most researchers do not know real Kabbalah. It's like, well, what's real Kabbalah? And would real Kabbalah enlighten those who don't know about it? We hear this in Christianity. It's so funny. It's like, oh, they're not real Christians, right? The Catholics, they're the real Christians. Or what's a true Muslim, true Buddhist? And again, that aim to categorize, that's dualism. So the AI aspects of ourselves have carried that question over into the spiritual realm. It's like, what makes a spiritual person? It's like, you really think it's about checking a bunch of boxes and doing exactly as one guru says or the other, right? Could I just write a book and tell all of you how to reclaim yourselves? It's like, it doesn't work like that. It never worked like that. It's foolish to work like that. And to think it works like that is to externalize yourself onto the outer. And it's like a shortcut away from the heart, right? What do I have to do to be enlightened? What should I do to awaken, man? And I guess the true mystic would answer, if I told you, you wouldn't even be able to hear it. But for now, sure. Go vegan, pray twice a day, meditate for 30 minutes, okay? And a lot of us needed that at some point. Some guidelines until you realize it's like, whatever guidelines you set are the guidelines you abide by, so swallow the pill you manufactured for yourself. This is funny. Mr. John Smith, what does it mean to know, in your opinion? If you know, you know. How can I tell you what it means to know? I guess it would mean when something arises as complete truth without you questioning it, because it's just felt, then that's what it means to know. What it means to know is to not give in to the perils of needing validation. Fear suggests that I can only know if others acknowledge I know it. The heart says, I know, so agree, disagree, dance with me, run with me. I couldn't care less. Devin, do you think that final goal of the elite is to make technology more superior so they can replace these avatars with robotic ones so they lock our soul in matter forever? What a question. No, the elite don't have a final goal. The elite are us. They're like a bunch of evil character holograms that we have seen through the internet and truther YouTube accounts. And we've been told through the veil of Maya that the elite are here to imprison us. And this is actually the furthest from the truth. It's that it's but a mirage. So remember, if it's of fear, it's not true, regardless of the justification that the physical wants to tell. That's what's so funny. It's like, it's Maya. It's like, yeah, I know, but I read these things about the elite and what Elon Musk is doing and technology, and I heard from whistleblowers about the underground cloning labs. It's like, I know, like, you hear a lot of things in purgatory. You hear so many justifications to buy into death culture, to buy into well, just a fear-based paradigm, and it's all null and void. So I implore many of you to say to yourself in public, this is all null and void. You know, this isn't. I'm walking around in this, but at the same time, it's not. It's just it's a waiting room. It's like, it's a limbo. You're in limbo. You're walking around in this weird shadowy place. It's kind of nice, but it's kind of off to, that's Earth. That's purgatory. So if it's fear, it's false. What if the demiurge wants this world to exist and it can't exist without us? We are fragments of source. We are fragments of source. Yes, we are. We are source. What if the demiurge wants this world to exist? Well, I mean, you are the demiurge. Like, what's said about the demiurge is he is a power-hungry, ignorant god who can only see himself as having magical capabilities and whatnot. Isn't that the same thing as when we align with the idea that our five senses is all that there is? Isn't that ignorant and foolish? Just like the demiurge. So you're in the demiurge. The demiurge is the material construct. So do you want this world to exist? What if the demiurge wants this world to exist? It's your call, I suppose, but I ensure and guarantee that if it's coming from a place of fear or a what if possibility, then it is not of the heart. And for the living souls, that's not you, baby. That's something else. May as well be an implanted thought, right? Like, a lot of us have felt demons or archons hasn't been any different from your own shadow self. The world I see is an outward picture of an inward condition from A Course in Miracles. Yep. And that simple truth rings with infinite power, without rhyme or reason. Isn't that a trippy idea? Ms. Green Queen, Course in Miracles is CIA. But why does that matter? Why does that matter? Right? Like, we're ascending, baby. You know, the rules don't apply to us anymore. All of these manipulations that were so scary, they don't apply to us. So Course in Miracles, the CIA, well, it just so happens Course in Miracles, I've never read it, but it has that beautiful phrase, the world I see is an outward picture of an inward condition. You know, as within, so without. So, you know, is it necessary to speak of something just because it has complexity, right? You think an economic crash or a war would happen before we exit, or is that just fear porn? That's just fear porn. Yeah, I mean, whatever is happening on the world stage it's a divine comedy. Okay, that's why they call it the world stage. We are exiting because we're opening up the heart space, and this allows the toroidal net to dissolve, allowing the aurora borealis to fill the realm and reincorporate these projected parts of ourselves back into the hyperborean selves. So that's happening. So an economic crash, that has nothing to do with the heart. And a war happening is one not going to involve the living souls, because we're protected at this point in Sophia's pregnancy, and two is nothing to feel victimized by. So it is fear porn, and again, fear has justification as one of its main rulers to reign supreme. So I know there's lots of justifications to be upset over an economic crash. But at this point, you would just be avoiding yourself to go on some labyrinth down into the pits of the what ifs. So, thank you everybody for joining me on this secret live stream. Keep up the great work. And say fuck it. Take care, everybody.